Motivations podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Conley. I'm a certified Enneagram coach and a Symbis marriage coach. I'm so glad you're here, whether it's for the first time or returning. It's really great to have you join us. So, we're taking the week off, and I didn't want to leave us without something to listen to. And I thought it a good plan to get us back to our grass roots. Enneagram, self-love, self-care. So what I have for us today is something that we talked about last year, which includes some mindset methods like I ams, gratitude practices, as well as patience with yourself as you create new habits, new ways of moving through life. There are some differences in the recording, as I had different recording equipment. So here's my thought. Together, we can just love on your host of last year. With that, sit back, relax, and listen to where it all began. So how has your week been? Did you take that Enneagram assessment? What'd you discover? Anything interesting? My self-care this week has been filled with practicing gratitude and remembering my I am list. Can I just for a moment stop and pause and talk about this gratitude practice? Does anyone find it hard to do that? Kind of a battle sometimes? I'm so glad that you are finding your way through celebrating and finding gratitude in those things. But for me, this week was really hard to process through gratitude. Usually, I'm really good at identifying the thing that is happening and appreciating the good aspects of it, finding gratitude in it. But holy moly, this week has proven to be difficult. I have been killing it at seeing the thing that is causing pain and challenges, but locating the gratitude in it? Oh no. No, 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 no. Not my superpower this week. But the more we practice this gratitude, the less foreign it feels. Isn't that so true? The things that are good for us sometimes take time to settle in. Sometimes those healthy choices, they need space to help heal the hurt and the struggle. I know when we allow that new thing, that healthy thing into our environment, it can make changes on our outlook. But now brace yourself. I'm going to use a word that is hard for all of us to hear. Are you ready? Patience. The truth is, we need to be willing to have patience with the change. Patience with yourself. Patience with the process. Okay, I said it. How's everyone doing? You okay? Did you come back to the table or chair? Did you not swerve off the road when I used that word patience? Okay, so you need a minute. Okay, minute's up. We got this. You got this. Practicing new things takes time. In fact, according to a professor at the University of Queensland in the psychology department, he says your brain is never fixed, but continues to change with learning and experiencing throughout your life. Most learning in the brain involves rewiring or making and strengthening connections between neurons, the cells of your brain most crucial for learning. And other researchers show that after you learn something new, your brain is never the same again. Each and every time we learn something new, our brain forms new connections and neurons, making existing neural pathways stronger or weaker. Some experts call this change plasticity in the brain. And everything you learn goes first to your short term memory, and some of it transfers later to the long term storage in your brain. So basically, the brain is working in the background, transferring this new thing, new information, practice, habit, or rhythm to long term. And at the same time, we're having the emotional response to this new thing. It's not bad. It's just different. Believe me, at some point or another throughout our lives, we have heard this, that it takes practice. Keep trying. Whew, big, right? Why can't I just hear something once and boom, I'm a pro? Like, I went to the pool, now I'm an Olympic swimmer. Aren't we just super funny? So, yeah, I know this truth, and yet here I sit with all my thought out and well prayed for I am list, knowing that has been hard this week too. Hearing myself say out loud, I'm smart, I'm capable, and in parentheses, not really feeling that. I belong. I have a seat at the table. This, of course, is something I also need reminding of. The I am list is bringing to the surface things that are hard to remember and hard to embrace. So, I need reminding that I have a seat at the table. I haven't always felt that way. And without the reminders that I have a seat at the table, I can find myself comparing myself to other people, especially when I'm doing something new. Because I'm new to the podcasting world. And the truth is I compare myself to podcasters that seem more polished, seemingly more successful, better prepared, more educated, better sounding voice, better guests, better format. Oh my goodness, I could go on forever. Only to discover that all people, young, old, men, women, we all struggle with confidence. Not believing that we are allowed to be where we are. I don't start off as a good podcaster. I grow into it. Because practicing and strengthening a new muscle takes time. I need to rest in just being me. Because that is yours and my superpower, which means you and I are, in fact, in the right seat. Also, remembering something that one of my favorite podcasters said, you might know her, Mel Robbins. This is a paraphrase, but I recently was listening to one of her podcasts, and she said, and again, I'm paraphrasing this, stop comparing yourself to others. Their wins are yours too. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And with that, I'm back in alignment. And if for some reason you think you're not in the right seat, move to another one, right? All this talk about wrong seats, it reminds me of what I am and what I'm not. It makes me think of the but ever overpowering imposter syndrome. which it can show up in some interesting places, especially in cases of leadership. I think at one point or another, people can find themselves having imposter syndrome. And keep in mind, leadership can look different. For example, being a mom and CEO of the household, or perhaps the eldest child. This includes those leadership roles we have at work and so on. So, why do I bring up imposter syndrome? It is a real thing, and it can set us back. It can set us up against the truth. So, what is imposter syndrome? Well, imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon or fraud syndrome, is a psychological experience that causes people to doubt their skills and success or successes. It's characterized by a persistent feeling of inadequacy and the belief that success is undeserved, even when evidence shows otherwise. So, people with imposter syndrome may attribute their accomplishments to luck or external factors and fear being exposed as a fraud. Good thing we paused to talk about that because it's very possible that someone right now is struggling with imposter syndrome. And I'm here to tell you, you're in good company. I'm sure many people in some fashion struggle to see their true selves. And I'm here to remind you, you have a seat at the table wherever it is. You have done all the things to get yourself there. My hope is that as we continue to practice self-care and self-love, that we find new ways to show up for ourselves. Remember how it feels when other people do that for us, right? It feels pretty great. Well, shouldn't it be the same, maybe even better still, when we show up for ourselves? What are ways you can show up for yourself? Oh man, did I get off a bit of the path, maybe? So, back to remembering the incredible tools that we've been learning. These wonderful practices of gratitude and I ams. Look for more tools coming to a theater near you. I mean, at the end of this podcast. So, we talked last week about oxygen masks and the importance of you placing your own first, allowing for you to be taken care of before you lead, guide, support, teach, and the like. We talked about some basic things about the Enneagram. So, without further ado, let's take the next step as we explore the Enneagram and you. I shared with you last time what Enneagram means. Enneam meaning 9 and gram meaning a shape or something drawn. And if you're interested in seeing that image or picture, you can go to my Instagram and it's on there. I can also send you something in your email. Sidebar, please. Not a lawyer, just seems cool to say. Something some of you may not be familiar with is the concept of being under construction. So, the Bible says that it is the ongoing process of spiritual growth and transformation. And a verse from scripture says this entire building is under construction and is continually growing under his supervision until it rises up completed as the holy temple of the Lord himself. Now that might be a little confusing, but we are under construction and we're being supervised by God or your superpower, or excuse me, your whoever you pray to, whoever you are in alignment with. In my case, it's God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so the truth is that being under construction, it's kind of inconvenient, right? There's detours. Under construction means that we're probably moving slower than we wanted, and yet it is necessary for growth. It helps us get to our destination. Just like the GPS system of a car, the GPS of the Enneagram is the tool of direction, where the rumble strip, those dots that you see on the freeway when you sway off into the side, they make a really loud noise and jerk the car. The rumble strip keeps us on the road so we don't veer off, helping you to discover and understand your why. Why do you do what you do? And of course, all these tools are only as good as the person using them when you know what they are and how they work. And of course, if we don't know how to use them, it's kind of awkward, right? So I want to share some more foundational aspects. I want to, as we move towards understanding of what the Enneagram is, please note that there's a lot to the Enneagram, so don't feel like you have to be an expert. Just because you're learning all these things and hearing all these things, it doesn't mean now you know what to do, what it means, and how it applies to everything. And I also want to let you know that I too am learning. I'm still learning all these things. So, how about we just learn them together? And this is about helping you to have another perspective of yourself. This is by no means a space of judgment. Unless, of course, you're Ryan Reynolds doing a Mint Mobile commercial. And if you know, you know. This process of understanding the Enneagram is giving language to, helping and aiding you, as it also helps others to show up the way you need them to, as well as describe the why am I feeling that when someone says something that either it stings or on the other side of that coin feeds your soul. Sound good? And I also just want to say, if at any time during our time together you have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram, coremotivations_coach, and you can email me, Michelle at coremotivationscoach.com. I'd love to hear from you and help you get some clarity about what I'm sharing today. Okay, so types. What is it? The Enneagram is more than personality or character or even ego structure. In fact, it is the persistent features that come together in what is known as our human behavior, and it's represented by 9 distinct aspects of the human ego. It's the part that tells us our worth as it applies to things like self-esteem, self-confidence, self-respect, and self-image. The psychological ego is the rational self in daily life. It is the inner architecture aiding in how we interact with and respond to our external world. So, to start, there are 9 types. Type 1, the moral perfectionist. Type 2, the helper. Type 3, the successful achiever. Type 4, romantic individualist. Type 5 is the investigative thinker. Type 6 is the loyal guardian. Type 7 is the entertaining optimist. Type 8 is the protective challenger. and type 9 is the peaceful mediator. So each type operates with a set of core motivations. Core meaning the foundation of what we are made of, and motivations meaning the thing that gets you up in the morning or the way in which you respond to the world. So, for example, if it's cold outside, you don't necessarily just say, wow, it's cold outside, end of story, period. In fact, you respond in some way. Perhaps you respond by turning the heat up or putting on layers of clothing, scarves, hats, and blankets. Or maybe you're celebrating, you're excited, and you're running outside in your shorts. It's what you do in response to it being cold. Now, I personally wouldn't mind going back to bed and skipping the day when it's cold, but that's just me. The motivation to do these things, i.e., more clothing, a heater, it's because you are cold. Your motivation, it stems from not wanting to be cold. Or, opposing view, you think of it as a way to be cozy or celebrate that it's cold. Some people like that. Either way, you are motivated to do something about that response to the it's cold. These motivations, as relates to any of the Enneagram types, are what is referred to or known as your core motivations. So, our core motivations are made up of 4 motivations known as core fear, core desire, core weakness, and core longing. So, core fear, that is what a person is always running away from, avoiding, and trying to prevent from happening. That deep inside we can believe that is vital to our well being to avoid the thing that we fear. Where core desire is what a person is always striving for and believing will bring them complete fulfillment. And core weakness, it's the core issue people are always wrestling with. And finally, core longing. It's the central message that a person's heart is always longing and thirsting to hear. So, core fear, core desire, core weakness, and core longing. So, for the rest of our time today, we're going to talk about the core motivations of each type. Now, keep in mind, we're going to circle back to all the details of each type as we continue our journey together. But I also want to ask that you would please remember, as we look at this first part of our core motivations, core fear, that we do not pass judgment as if it's wrong to have a fear like this, whatever it may be according to that type. Or further still, that something's wrong with you or wrong with someone else. We need to remember that this is what happens. And knowing this is what catapults us forward. Can I just ask that we just receive it, we acknowledge it, and find a way to use these things for our betterment? Because remember, we are seeking new ways of self-care and self-love. So let's start with understanding our core motivations. So today we're going to look at each types of core fear. So here we go. And I'm going to try to go slow because it's a lot of information. But if you want to know what each of them are, please send me an email, Michelle at coremotivationscoach.com, and I'll send this to you. You can also DM me on Instagram, coremotivations_coach. Okay, so type 1. They're known as the moral perfectionist. Their core fear is being bad, corrupt, and ultimately unworthy. Often you might hear type 1s describe a difficult experience where they were publicly embarrassed and called out or humiliated. As improvers, they learn early on how good it felt to do the right thing and behave according to the rules. And as a result, they have unrealistic high expectations of themselves and others and often feel trapped by their loud inner critic and perfectionistic tendencies. So that's type 1, the moral perfectionist. And type 2, they're known as the helper. And the type's 2 core fear is being unlovable. See, because early on, they had a love need that didn't get met. And they spend their time and energy ensuring connection with others in relationship, often engineered by giving and helping. And as a result, they live their lives asleep to their own needs and desires and often only know themselves in relationship to other people. Type 3. Now remember, they're known as the successful achiever. Core three's fear is fear of failure and being without value. And as a result, they're driven to success at all costs. Early on, they're garnered love and acceptance through their impressive achievements, which give them their sense of worth and value. They learn to turn off their emotions and disconnect from their true selves in order to get the job done and look good doing it, often becoming deceitful to self and others. Type 4, they're known as the romantic individualists. The core fear of a 4 is being deficient and ultimately rejected or abandoned. Many 4s describe an early actual or perceived experience of loss of love. And as a result, abandonment or deprivation. The story that they make up in their head is that somehow they caused this. So they spend a great deal of time and energy focusing on how to somehow reverse this with the ideal relationship or situation. This normally always involves being seen as special and unique. And in the process, they can become self absorbed, hot and cold, and chronically melancholy. Okay, so type 5, they're known as the investigative thinker. 5's core fear is being useless, incompetent, and helpless. Their early experience often involves being neglected or engulfed by caregivers whom they needed in order to survive. They were somehow unaware and unresponsive of their needs, which forced little 5s to go inward, to detach, and to hold on to the little they had. Their survival came from their ability to acquire knowledge and understanding, as well as their self sufficiency. In the process, they became emotionally and physically cut off from the world and often stingy, both emotionally and practically. Type 6, they're also known as the loyal guardian. Six's core fear is being without support and guidance. As little people, they often describe being in threatening, ongoing situations. And as a result, they developed a belief that the world was a dangerous place. The prototypical fear type sixes focus on their time and energy on safety and security, as well as feeling supported. As excellent problem solvers, sixes can often become real problem seekers and worst case scenario thinkers. Type 7, they're known as the entertaining optimist. Seven's core fear is being trapped or in pain. Young sevens often describe a difficult relationship with one parental figure, often maternal, that was overbearing, stern, and dominant, but it can also work the other way with the paternal caregiver. Based on this early experience, they believe that authority equals limitation. And much like eights, despise being told what to do. As a result, they like to keep things open and exciting with lots of options. In the process, they can become scattered and disconnected from reality and unable to integrate the normal pain of life into their experience. And type 8, they're known as the protective challenger. Eight's core fear is being weak or controlled by others. Many eights describe a combative or conflict ridden early childhood where they had to grow up fast in order to survive. They had to disconnect from their childhood innocence because of the lack of protection of some type of deprivation. As a result, eights avoid weakness and being controlled by others at all cost and can be experienced as dominating, excessive, and overly impactful. Type 9s, they're known as the peaceful mediator. Nine's core fear is loss or disconnection. They often describe an early experience where their opinions didn't matter or weren't heard. Perhaps there were others who had louder voices or opinions, or they were just overlooked somehow. So, in order to feel calm and secure, they went along with whatever others wanted. And through this experience of being overlooked or overpowered, they became expert in accommodating the needs and desires and agendas of others. So, as a result, much like the twos, they become overly dependent on others and feel that their presence in the world doesn't matter. So, did one core fear resonate with you more than the other? Maybe you're interested in keeping a journal of what type you resonated with, and perhaps you can make some connections. I also want to again encourage you to take the free assessment, which you can find on my Instagram page. You just click the link, it takes you right to the assessment. You take the assessment, and it will, at the end, send you the results to your email. Because the truth is, there's a lot of information that I just shared with you, right? That's why coaching can help. It will bridge some of these concepts we're talking about. So, what do you say? You can also schedule a 30-minute free consultation with me to talk about coaching and discover ways it can help you on your journey of self care and self love. So drop me an email, Michelle at coremotivationscoach.com, or send me a DM on Instagram, coremotivations_coach, and we'll talk. See what's next for you. So just want to bring us back to showing up for yourself and why it's so important. And this is another practice that we're adding to our toolbox. You didn't know you had a toolbox, but you do. Don't forget, make it your own design. Make it special and unique to you. See, because every day we're learning something new, some new way to navigate life, and it goes into a spot where we can access it later. I like to call it a toolbox. See, because it makes me feel strong. So, our new tool that goes in our toolbox is showing up. So, what is showing up? Well, showing up for yourself, it takes practice while removing the lie that we are an imposter and that someone might sleuth us out to show that we really are a liar and not who we really are. So, let's commit to changing that narrative. So, our next self practice is showing up for yourself. Showing up for yourself and involves making conscious choices to prioritizing your well being, your needs, and happiness. It's about consistently making the effort to care for yourself by setting boundaries and nurturing your inner self, both emotionally and physically. This can improve practicing self care by setting realistic goals and seeking support when needed. Here's more of a detailed breakdown of how to show up for yourself. Are you ready? Here we go. Number one, self care and well being. We do that when we prioritize our needs. Make time for activities that bring you joy and relaxation, even if it means saying no to other demands. We can also do this by practicing self compassion, by being kind and understanding to yourself, especially during challenging times. That we would nurture our physical health, and we do that by, as we learned before, eating nourishing foods, getting enough sleep, and engaging in regular physical activity. Another way is, let's manage our stress by practicing again these relaxation techniques that we've talked about before, such as meditation or deep breathing, which can reduce stress and anxiety. We can set boundaries and learn how to self advocate for ourselves. We do that by defining our limits, identify your boundaries, and learn to communicate them assertively, especially in relationships and at work. Let's practice protecting our time and our energy by learning to say no to requests that drain your resources and prioritize activities that align with your values. And how about learning to stand up for yourself? When you feel disrespected or unfairly treated, speak up for your needs and rights. And another way is personal growth and development. We do that by identifying your goals. You set realistic and achievable goals for yourself, and you work towards them with dedication and perseverance. What helps that is that we seek the right kind of support. Please don't hesitate to ask for help from your friends and family or professionals when you need it. And of course, it gives us the opportunity to learn from our mistakes. We should view setbacks as opportunity for growth and learning. And forgive yourself for any errors you make. And my favorite, practicing gratitude. Acknowledge and appreciate the good things in your life and your own strengths and qualities. I would like to point out that all these self-care practices are showing some commonalities. Are you seeing it too? Isn't it funny? We know all this. We have probably learned all this at some point in our lives. Maybe we've even suggested all these things to the ones that we love. And that yet the person who deserves these things too, and maybe the most in our lives, is you. Couldn't you agree with me here? So I just got to ask, where's your oxygen mask? Now, if you want the list of core fears for each type, again, send me an email. You know it, Michelle at coremotivationscoach.com, and I'll send it to your inbox. It's that easy. Now, some quick legal stuff. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for medical care. The materials, videos, or books referred to in this podcast are recommendations only, and the views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast host. That's me, or sponsors. So join me each week as we dive into all things Enneagram, self-care, self-love, patterns and rhythms, and share ideas from other reputable authors, doctors, and my favorite podcasts. Thank you for being with me today on Core Motivations Podcast. Again, you can find me on Instagram at coremotivations_coach. Love for you to give a follow and share this episode, and even scroll down to the end of the podcast and leave a review. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even Amazon Music. And until next time, and as always, I'm rooting for you.